This is the most poisonous toad on Earth, but despite almost nothing being able to eat them, they're disappearing from the wild, one by one.
Right in here is exactly the frog we're looking for, but there's one problem. This is dead.
Something is killing these beautiful little toads, and I want to know why. To get answers, I'm heading on an adventure into the most remote rainforests in Central America, complete with the most difficult terrain I've ever hiked, and some of the most dangerous creatures I've ever faced. This journey will push me to my very limit, but the secrets hidden in this jungle are even more terrifying than this toad's heart-stopping poison. What I found under this canopy of leaves is a story that may hold the fate of not just these toads, but all life on Earth in its hands. And that story begins in the Anton Valley. I'm heading to El Valle Amphibian Conservation Center to talk to their researchers. If I want to find a creature basically no one sees in the wild, I'm gonna need expert advice. While I'm here, I'm hoping to get clues about what's causing these toads to disappear.
Probably one of the most significant things is like how specialized these toads are.
This is Edgardo Griffith, a conservation biologist. He's dedicated his life to one sole purpose: cracking the code of these colorful little amphibians, and was one of the last people to see the Panamanian golden frog in the wild. The toads we're after are close relatives of the golden frog, so his knowledge of the genus might be helpful on our mission.
And of course, most of the time they have bright colors, highly toxic. This is one of the most toxic toads that there is, the genus itself.
Frogs in the genus Atelopus are often called the harlequin toads. Native to Central and South America, they're like the little jewels of the rainforest, tiny, colorful amphibians that exist in hidden away streams where they hop about the underbrush. You're probably thinking they look like poison dart frogs, and you'd be right. Like the dart frogs, these toads are highly toxic.
They have several types of neurotoxins. First of all, it's a defensive mechanism. So you have to, stress the animal to the point that it enters or it starts a survival mode and it starts secreting the toxins through the skin. They have parotid glands because they are toads, and those are the poison glands, but the entire skin could produce or secrete toxins, some regions more than others, of course.
The poison of these toads is actually a lot like some of the world's most toxic dart frogs. It's a powerful neurotoxin that stops your heart in minutes, not unlike the poison of the deadly golden arrow frog, and this makes them among the most toxic amphibians on Earth. There is an important difference though. Unlike many of the dart frogs, their poison doesn't actually absorb through your skin, so simply touching them isn't going to kill you. Their toxin has to get in through a cut or a mucosal membrane like your eyes or nose, or you have to eat them. And as a result of this, they actually have very few predators in their natural habitat, which makes their whole situation kind of weird, right? In other habitats, poisonous toads like the cane toad absolutely take over and become a really serious problem, breeding out of control because nothing can eat them. But we're not seeing this happen with Atelopus, and the reason why is because the harlequin toad actually has one weakness.
And now you might be wondering why I'm wearing gloves. Mostly because my hands are dirty. I have fatty acids in my hands, I have lotion, I have all sorts of things, beard oil. I don't want any of that to be in the skin of this animal that is extremely susceptible to chemicals and things that are not necessarily natural to them.
Amphibians do look like reptiles, but they actually function totally different. The reason many frogs and salamanders have to stay moist is because their skin is perhaps the most important organ they have. Amphibians do a lot of their gas exchange and even water absorption through their skin. Their skin is highly permeable, which means lots of different things can diffuse into their bodies. So they are effectively an extension of their environment. Whatever is in their environment is also going to be inside them. And this matters because if an amphibian is particularly sensitive to toxins or pollution, it can't survive if its environment isn't extremely clean. The reason why invasive amphibians like cane toads are able to proliferate so quickly and become such a big problem, even in disturbed habitats, is because they're not that sensitive to pollution. They're very hardy toads. The harlequin toads might be extremely toxic, but they've kind of specced all of their evolutionary points into toxicity and hardly any of them into hardiness. The slightest change can happen in their environment and it'll be enough to push them past the point of survivability. That is how sensitive these tiny little amphibians are. But even more than pollution, there's something else happening in the habitat of the Atelopus toads, something that makes their skin even more important. And as we dig deeper into the world of Atelopus, we're going to find out why. In order to find these rare amphibians, I need to go where the habitat is extremely undisturbed. Areas seldom trafficked by humans, some of the most remote wilderness left on the planet. Alright, so we're off to a very special spot today. We have a chance at a frog that is critically endangered, and this might be one of the last times, and endemic to Panama. And it might be one of the last times it's ever filmed in the wild on YouTube. My good friend Emilio is staying in Panama with some family, so we're tackling this mission together. To find wild antelopes, we need to travel to a remote mountain range along the Caribbean coast. Deep in the jungle canyons, there are rumors that a population of brightly colored toads is still thriving, but getting there will be its own challenge. We have made it to the lodge, and it's raining, so I'm on the GoPro. But we're about to go have a little walkabout and see the lay of the land, see if there's any neat spots to pay attention to, and see if we can find any amazing creatures. Welcome to the Central American rainforest. There are more species of life here than most other places on Earth. And this is proper, undisturbed habitat. It's a challenging hike, but not without its rewards. I mean, look at this place. This is the definition of natural splendor. After dark, the forest comes alive with unusual things. Glass frogs trill from the bromeliads. Trapjaw ants patrol the vines. Venomous spiders lurk in their funnel-shaped webs, waiting for their next victims. In the rainforest, everyone has somewhere to be. It's the most resource-rich environment in the world, but this wealth does not give itself up easily. You have to fight, tooth and nail, to make a living here, and only the hardiest of survivors are selected to thrive. Is this what it was like before humans arrived here? The trail is primitive, little more than a thin track of exposed soil that snakes through the brush. In these wet tropics, it's slick with mud on the mountainous terrain, making it the most treacherous hike I've ever attempted. But it's a good preview of what's to come. At sunrise, we'll be heading out on a 3-mile trek into a hidden canyon, a pristine jungle stream that is a known holdout of the Limosa harlequin toad, one of the last survivors of the genus in the wild in Panama. I thought this scouting run had prepared me, but little did I know that I was about to embark on the most difficult physical challenge of my life. Well, it's bright and early. Very soon, we're gonna be heading out to go look for one of the rarest amphibians, not just in Panama, but in the entire world. It is kind of wet. I'm hoping it doesn't rain, but that's cloud forest for you. You kind of never know if it's gonna rain. This is gonna be wild. The journey certainly took us over the hills and far away, but we weren't heading to Grandma's house. Our guide knows this forest like the back of his hand, where he and his dog hike every day, managing the trails and checking up on the conservation projects in the area. It's slow going in this habitat. The mud suctions onto your boots with each step, and the slopes have almost zero traction. Not the best feeling with the ominous, jagged rocks below. With every step, we're watching for venomous snakes, gripping onto the trees and vines to pull ourselves forward when our feet have no purchase, checking and double-checking that we're not placing our hands onto a scorpion or wandering spider. Now, I'm the sort of guy who runs 20 miles on a Sunday morning for fun, and this was one of the most grueling physical ordeals I've ever put myself through. As we crest the canyon slopes, I feel my heart throbbing in my ears, my breath shaky in the heat. But the promise of a legendary animal pushes us onward. We can hear the rushing of the water up ahead. Antelopes is calling. So you're probably wondering how we got to come out here and look for an endangered species. The nice thing is we're actually helping with not just documentation, but the guided tour we're on is essentially helping fund the conservation of these toads. This eco lodge in central Panama is called Consenda, and it's run by a herpetologist and his brother. Basically, they take people out to look at all the birds, all the neat mammals and stuff in the area. Got trails all through the jungle, and one of their prized tours is what we're on right now. If you want to help conserve these toads and hopefully see them yourself, then consider checking out Consenda. Link in the description below. We made it to the canyon. Our guide tells us he usually sees the toads further downstream. We started down in that direction when Emilio saw something disturb the leaf litter.
See where it went?
It went in there. Where? Like you went in this. Oh, I see him.
Oh yeah, I do see him. Dude, that's Cerro Azul. Holy crap, that's probably one of the worst scorpions, most dangerous scorpions we could have possibly found.
This is a thick-tailed scorpion in the genus Titias. Like a bark scorpion on steroids, its venom is a powerful neurotoxin. This particular species, the Blue Ridge thick-tailed scorpion, is possibly among the most toxic arachnids in the Western Hemisphere. A sting from this in the bottom of this canyon is almost certainly life-ending. So it's not just difficult terrain we have in store for us, we have to watch out for biological landmines while we're combing the underbrush for toads. We made our way around a bend, and Emilio spotted something near the water's edge. I came over to have a look.
Right in here is exactly the frog we're looking for, but there's one problem. This is dead, and you can see it's in rough shape. This is actually the reason we're out here looking for these toads today. They're not threatened by human development the way many other endangered species are. These guys are threatened by basically an alien invasion. A fungus has been spreading in these tropics, and the amphibians are in serious trouble. This frog died to that exact fungus. And the thing is, as far as we know, none of them are ever going to be immune to it. So the only thing we can do is help to stop its spread. This is a good sign that the frogs are here, but we don't want to see them dead like this, because that would mean absolute disaster. So we're gonna try and not make any contact with this frog, because if we do find any live ones, we don't want to spread the disease.
The world's most potent poison can defend these toads from larger predators, but it's not enough to save them from a deadly pandemic that's threatening amphibians worldwide. The rise of pathogenic fungi in the Americas has caused the extinction of dozens, if not hundreds of amphibian species already, and populations like these Limosa harlequin toads are barely clinging to existence.
The biggest cause of the disappearance of these toads, habitat loss. They're losing terrain, they're losing their natural conditions. And with habitat loss, I'm not just referring to, when you clear a forest with people or drain a swamp or redirect a river. Habitat loss is also associated to the global warming. If it's too hot or it's hotter than what it was before, then that's not your habitat. Your habitat doesn't have the conditions that you are specifically associated to. But more directly, there's a pathogen that was introduced by humans that is called Batrachochitrium dendrobatidis, which is a microscopic fungus that infects the skin and renders them impossible to do that gas exchange through their skin.
Remember how I said their skin was important? Yeah. This is why. Working with Edgardo in the lab, I got to learn a ton about the biology of these toads and this fungus. Chytrid isn't like a mushroom or a mold. It's essentially a microorganism. It spreads through the environment using zoospores, these tiny, mobile, almost sperm-like spores that disperse through water. With spores in general, it's difficult to remove one of these parasites, one of these pathogens from the environment, because spores are extremely structurally sound. They are literally evolved to survive the harshest of conditions to make sure that when conditions become good again, they can then sprout and become new fungi. When these zoospores find their target, which just so happens to be the skin cells of these amphibians, they then grow and become what's called a zoosporangium, which is a tiny little fungal body that Edgardo called a reproductive reactor. Almost like a virus, it hijacks the cell, stealing its energy and resources to produce even more of those mobile zoospores, which then spread to other cells in the amphibian and also out into the environment. Technically, this fungus isn't trying to kill its host. It's just using that skin as a substrate to breed. It just so happens that that skin is necessary for the amphibian's ability to breathe. So when those cells are being hacked by the fungus, this amphibian loses its ability to perform these vital functions for its survival, eventually leading to its ultimate demise.
Once the chytrid arrives to a place, there's not a practical way to get rid of it, because it belongs to a group of fungi that decompose organic matter. Okay, so if you attack the chytrid that infects the skin of a frog, you're going to be attacking all the chytrids that are in that environment, in that water, in that soil, in that leaf litter, that are necessary to release energy into the environment, to break things down into their elemental state. So the chytrid fungus is a fantastic microorganism. It knows how to kill amphibians. Unfortunately, we cannot cure it.
Edgardo's words echo in my head as we push deeper into the canyon. Once chytrid is here, it's here to stay. This may be our last chance to see the harlequin toads in the wild as the pandemic ravages their population. We're scanning every patch of leaf litter, every rock, hoping for a glimpse of a survivor. Are we too late for the Limosa harlequin toad? We came to a large flat rock as we approached the next waterfall. Almost like a video game sage waiting for us at the end of our trial, a small green and black toad was sitting on its center, an adult female harlequin toad.
At long last, the legend of Consenda, the Limosa harlequin toad. Look at this beautiful specimen. It's a large female. Oh man, those colors are just gorgeous. This frog has absolutely no camouflage in this stream bank environment, and that is intentional. She's telling you, back off, I am extremely poisonous. Now, I'm not handling this toad, not because I'm in any danger. In fact, touching these toads is not dangerous to us. The reason I'm not touching this toad is because of how sensitive they are. These creatures are under attack. This environment has a silent invasion from a fungus, and if I touch her, I could spread this horrible disease. So we're sitting here admiring her from a distance to get a great look at one of the most impressive amphibians I have ever seen. Have a look at the anatomy here. This is unlike any other frog you've probably ever seen, because it's actually not your typical frog. This is more closely related to the toads that you find in your backyard than it is to like poison dart frogs or tree frogs, which it seems to look a lot like. This is convergent evolution. Two completely different lineages have converged to build that crazy, vibrant patterning and a potent toxin. Now, this particular species, we're not 100% sure how toxic they actually are, but some of the more vibrant and more well-documented species actually are poisonous enough to kill a grown human. This one, we're not sure, but thankfully I'm not going to be eating this toad, and that's going to be good for her and good for me, because we're going to let her go right back to her business in a minute to survive in this wonderful ecosystem. She almost looks like a toy or something. Her skin has that almost plasticky kind of finish, and unlike the tree frogs, she's not going to be super slimy. She's a toad. She's drier, more tough skin. But that doesn't change the fact that this is a delicate creature. Now, amphibians look a lot like reptiles, but they couldn't be less related. These guys spend a good portion of their time living in and around the water, and as a result, they don't breathe the same way that you and I do. They breathe through their skin. Here in this environment, it is super humid, so I don't know if I'd want to be breathing through my skin, but these guys are perfectly adapted to live in these wet tropics. Look at that thing. Absolutely gorgeous. You can see those vibrant little eyes. They have fantastic vision, and their eyes are on both sides of their head because they're living in these stream environments. They need to be able to see any kind of insects moving around and potential predators. Unlike your typical backyard toads, they're also super streamlined, extremely hydrodynamic. These are fantastic swimmers because they can use the water to make a quick escape. That is one beautiful toad. Cannot believe we got to see one. This is one that like most people will never get to see, and this might be one of the last times they're ever documented on the internet if we can't figure out how to fight this fungal pandemic that they're facing.
Almost like finding this female reassured others to come out of hiding, on our way back, it seemed like every patch of leaf litter between boulders had a toad in it. Juveniles, males, toads of all sizes. In total, we found 11 healthy individuals on our way out, more than most groups on this tour ever see. From holding our breath, waiting to spot our first Atelopus, to cleaning up nearly a dozen, we were able to confirm that for now, this population is still holding on, but they're far from being out of the woods. Chytrid is here, and while the unforgiving terrain of this canyon probably isn't going to be bulldozed for a supermarket, runoff from factories or farms can change the water chemistry and kill these animals off in a generation. Rising global temperatures and intensifying storms could wipe this habitat off the face of the earth. The loudest voices are telling you not to believe your own eyes as our ecosystems crumble and collapse. And don't think for a second that just because this is one little toad in a remote Panamanian rainforest, that this doesn't concern you at home. The disappearance of these toads is an early warning system. They're an indicator species, only able to survive when conditions are favorable for sensitive life forms. But when those conditions deteriorate, the rest of the forest's biodiversity is likely to follow suit. Because we live in our nice houses and have all our modern technology, it's easy to forget that we're part of this world too. Our survival, our society as we know it, depends on the survival of our world's biodiversity. With each species that blinks out of existence, the clock ticks down to our own extinction. You might have noticed less bugs on your windshield in the summer, fewer birds singing in the morning on your way to work. These voices of nature are going silent, one by one, as we sleepwalk our way into a disaster that even our fancy technology and civilization will not be immune to. This is the greatest challenge of our time, but there's still hope. These rare, sensitive toads are living proof. If they can hold on, so can we. We can listen to the voices that want to confuse and distract us, or we can come together in appreciation of beautiful, unique creatures like the harlequin toad and build a culture that celebrates the amazing biodiversity of our world. Panama has been doing it for years. The Anton Valley has a festival in honor of these harlequin toads every single year, where people come together to honor a wonderful secret of the natural world. And one day, maybe their call will echo in the undergrowth of rainforest streams once more. These harlequin toads are just one of the many amazing secrets of Central and South American rainforests. And my goal with videos like this is to raise awareness for these hidden biological secrets that many people probably haven't heard of. And harlequin toads aren't the only one. In this very same jungle where we were searching for the Limosa harlequin toad, we also came across a recently described species of venomous funnel web spider. These creatures sound terrifying, but their story is actually really fascinating. And if you want to hear more about it, check out this video right here. Hope to see you there, but until next time, don't forget to get outside and find your own adventure.